there's been times when we fired some of our customers because we realized like, hey, and we give them their money back. It's like, hi, guys, this is not going to be a good product for you right now, because we're very, 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 very obsessive and very singular in our focus. So then it's like, okay, so reinforcement learner, principle number one, you have to be very, very cutthroat. You have to be very clear about what the goal is, and you have to have one goal. And that goal for us is
Hi, welcome to Untapped with UpSmith. I'm thrilled to be joined today by Sebastian, a new friend and the CEO of Rilla Voice.
Hi. I don't know which camera. Hi.
Sebastian's an entrepreneur who's working on a very important mission that's going to aim to transform the way people communicate and ultimately coach and develop and grow as human beings. And so I'm thrilled to have you aboard our podcast.
Thank you for having me, man. This is really cool and great to be here. I'm glad we can make this happen. We were in Dallas at the same time, so that's awesome.
Yeah, welcome to Texas.
Yeah.
Good to have you in town.
I literally, Dallas, I tell my girlfriend thinks I have a second family here in Dallas because I travel to Dallas, Texas, like every single month.
That's right.
My second residence is the Dallas-Fort Worth airport.
There you go.
Here all the time.
Well, she is always welcome in Texas. We'd be happy to have her come visit with you.
She's like, why are you going to Dallas so much?
We'll confirm there is no second family.
It wasn't until the 50th time that she started
asking the question.
Yeah.
That's well, you're always welcome. New York is home for you. That's where you live in Long Island City.
Yes.
You're building a really important company from there. We're excited to explore that a bit in the conversation.
Yeah.
Our goal, as you know, is to help share information with people about the skilled worker shortage and things to do about it. I'm curious about for you this problem.
Mm-hmm.
And how you've thought about it in your life, in your career, and in the company that you're building.
So do you mean the problem of upskilling people, or do you mean the problem that Rilla is solving in particular?
I'm the problem that Rilla is solving in particular.
Yeah. So the way we think about the problem, so there's two approaches to the problem. So the very specific problem that we're solving. So Rilla is the leading virtual ride-along software for the home improvement industry. So virtual ride-alongs, what that means is when sales reps, design consultants, comfort advisors, technicians, when they go out and they talk to homeowners in the home, they record their conversations with the Rilla mobile app. And then we use AI to automatically transcribe, analyze, and give them feedback to help them improve their conversations, the way they interact with customers, and ultimately their sales. And to allow their sales managers and their service managers to do what we call virtual ride-alongs that are 100 times faster, better, and more productive. So, the problem that we solve really is the problem of the physical ride-along, right? So if you have a team of outside sales and service people, like every single home improvement company in the country, the only way to coach and train them and show them how to actually do a great job and how to talk to customers well is to literally get in your car or get in the truck with them and drive up to the appointment and be there with them for 2-3 hours. And then after the fact, give them some feedback, take them out to lunch, and then drive back. So physical ride-alongs are a great resource. We absolutely, the reason I'm here in Dallas, I'm going to go visit one of our customers, Texas Medley, right after this interview. I love doing ride-alongs with our customers because you get to learn so much. You get to build a relationship. You get to bond with people. Physical ride-alongs are great. And you can actually see a lot of our customers measure this thing called ride-along efficiency, where you could see like a technician before a ride-along was here in terms of close rate, they were like a 20%. And after a ride-along, they go up to like maybe 40%, 50%. It's an insane dramatic impact that you see before and after a ride-along because you can actually give them feedback. The problem with ride-alongs, with physical ride-alongs, is that they are so difficult to do because they're hard to schedule. You have to schedule the right time with the right technician. They're so time consuming. It takes about 3 to 4 hours to do a physical ride-along when you take all the drive time. And then because it's so time consuming, it's so difficult to stay on top and to stay on top of all your technicians. You only see, like, most sales managers that are consistently doing ride-alongs, they're only seeing like 1 to 2% of the totality of the appointments.
Yeah.
And it's so difficult to stay consistent. So usually managers are doing ride-alongs like once a week, maybe once a month. You don't get to see like the single technician that you helped that day. You don't get to see them until like another month, another quarter sometimes.
A lot of time goes by.
A lot of time goes by, and then the ride-along efficiency, it goes out after 2 weeks because they start going back to their natural habit. Because we just imagine the problem, how we describe it is home improvement companies, home service companies. You guys are playing a sport where you can coach your players, right? You can give them feedback like any other coach in any other sports, and you can track results because their CRMs, their field service management softwares like ServiceSite, like Housecall Pro, and you can track results. But the one thing you can't do, like any other coach in any other sport, is you can't be on the field when the game is going on.
Right.
So Bill Belichick, imagine telling Bill Belichick you cannot see what's happening in the
Coach
game.
remotely.
Not
can't
even
see
coach
it.
remotely. You can't see anything.
Right.
You cannot see what's happening in the game. You can't review the game film. You can't watch it on TV. You can't be on the field. That's what happens to most home improvement companies. That 98% of the time, their technician and their comfort advisor, they're out there on their own without any coaching, without any help. It's like kind of you figure it out on your own. And that's why you see, and that problem of the ride-along consistency and the ride-along time that it takes to review everybody, that turns into lower conversion rates for technicians. That turns into lower average tickets. That turns into lower customer satisfaction. That turns into higher cancellation rates and callbacks because the technician didn't do a good job of explaining the thing properly. That turns into low retention rates when you're going from apprentice to technician. A lot of the times, a lot of our customers who are training technicians, they retain maybe like 3 out of 10 in a class. The 30% retention.
Yeah.
So after you spend all the time and all the money and all the resources in recruiting and training them, you don't retain them because they're not able to get up to speed to where you need them to be profitable for the business because of this fundamental lack of training, because of this fundamental lack of coaching, right? And so what Rilla does, very simply, what Rilla does is it literally just puts the sales manager, the service manager, it puts the coach on the field every single day, every single time with the technician. Every single time they're talking to a customer, they have a supercomputer in their pocket. It's analyzing everything. It's giving them feedback directly. And it's allowing, most importantly, their human coach to give them feedback also, like every other coach in any other sport. That's the problem that Rilla solves, right? The problem of the physical ride-along, we turn it into a virtual ride-along that is 100 times faster, better, and more productive.
Have you known this is what you wanted to do for a long time?
I know I wanted to do stand-up comedy when I was in college. So for 4 years, I went to college. I never went to class. I did stand-up comedy for 4 years. So I thought I was going to be a comedian, which was very helpful. Everything I learned about business, I learned from stand-up comedy. I went to business school in college. I went to Stern and NYU. I did not learn anything about business at business school. I did not go to class almost ever.
Yeah.
I would just do stand-up comedy and stand-up. I learned about marketing. I learned about sales. I learned about the creative process. I learned about building products. I learned about pitching. I learned about how to deal with failure. I learned about how to, create something 0 to 1, how to scale it. I learned everything from about business from stand. I learned a very important thing as a stand-up comic, because I thought I was going to be a stand-up comic for a long time.
Right.
I learned how to prepare myself to be poor because Jenseng Huang, he has a great quote where, like a little clip where he goes and tells Stanford students, it's like people with high expectations have low resilience because they
Right.
like,
Something happens.
I go to Harvard and it's like not perfect, and something happens that's not perfect, and it's like they crumble. And it's like for me, it was like I was already prepared to be poor and not make money for like 10 to 20 years as a stand-up comic.
Right.
So for me, doing Rilla, the fact that I even get to pay myself a salary is like a blessing. It's like, oh my God, I get $60,000 a year of a salary.
Right. Right.
Like, Jesus, that's awesome because everything's a plus. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, that was great. So yeah, stand-up, I learned everything through stand-up.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How did you become a stand-up comedian? What was the path there?
Brian Chesky says you are who you are, who you were when you were growing up. He says, I was always a designer. And I say I was always a clown. I'm from the Dominican Republic. It's a very funny culture. It's a very funny place.
Yeah.
Everybody in my family is very funny. All my friends are very funny. I did a DNA test recently. And it's like, I'm like 22% African from like, Ethiopia, West Africa, North Africa. I'm from, Iraq, Palestine, Middle East.
Yep.
Then I'm from Italy, France, England, Ireland, And then I was like, what is all this? And then I was like trying to think of like Irish in the Caribbean. I was like, oh, we're descendants of pirates. This is it's like, we're just a bunch of black white pirates. And so
Yeah.
yeah, so then it's a very funny culture and everybody's very hustling. And so I'd always been the class clown. And so when I came to NYU, I went to NYU for college. And when you go to NYU, it was like the perfect mix. I'd always been a clown, went to NYU for college. When you go to NYU for college, like the joke is like nobody goes, you're just in New York City.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're just like the people who thrive at NYU are usually the people who find their own path because you have to. And the people who don't, they kind of get depressed and stuff like that. And I was never one for getting depressed. I was always like, okay. So I started doing stand-up, and it was the first time I naturally I just gravitated towards it. And then when I did it the first time, I kind of got addicted immediately because it was the first time I did something that I thought it wasn't bullshit. Like something, it wasn't a test. It wasn't like a stupid class that you had to take a score. And, you know, like in high school, most kids are like, what, why am I doing this? And everybody's pretending that this is important. So when I did stand up, it was the first time that I kind of like saw the 0 to 1 thing, the art of creation. And like, I did a joke and people laughed. And then I thought, oh, wow. Like if I hadn't sat down and written this down in a piece of paper, people would not have laughed. Like, so this thing that I created is net new. This would not have happened if I didn't do all this work.
Yep.
And I was like, wow, that's really cool that I can just do that. I can create things and bring value to people. And so when I saw that, when I was like hooked immediately, I was like so addicted to it, and I stopped worrying about anything else. I just wanted to do stand up.
Right.
And so, yeah. And then from the first time I did it, I was like, I'm just gonna do this.
And so put me back in New York City 7 or 8 years ago. You're like the Comedy Cellar. Like what's going on?
No. I think I did the Comedy Cellar one time, like on a Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. I did not. I was not like I was good enough that I was like getting. So like when comedians get started, people tell you like usually most comedians, they really suck in the first 3 to 5 years. They really suck because most people don't even know how to do public speaking. So they get really nervous, and it takes a while to break the fear and be yourself on stage. Luckily for me, I had already done a lot of public speaking, so I never had that fear, and I had always been like making jokes and stuff like that. So I kind of came, so I was like good enough from the beginning, I would say, where I was like ahead of most of the people that I could see and doing the comedy. And so like in my first 2 years, I was already doing like I was already doing hosting gigs and doing regular gigs at New York comedy clubs. I would do the Stand, was a regular gig that I had. There was this thing called the Climate Lounge, and I did the Broadway Comedy Club a few times. But in New York, it's like the best city to do stand up because you're like literally every single bar in the West Village where NYU's at, every single bar in the East Village, they have a little open mic stand to bring people in. So you can literally in New York City do 3 to 6 shows a night if you intend. If you want, you could go to West Village, East Village, Brooklyn, and there will be shows from 3 p.m. until 4 a.m. in the morning. So you could just do shows and shows, and that's where you get really good. And most comedians, if you think about it, they go to New York to get really good. Because even if you're in LA, which is like the second comedy city, you have to drive places. Maybe you could do 1 show a night. In New York, that's another thing I learned about stand-up comedy. It's one of the core operating principles at Rilla, which is we try to operate Rilla like a high-speed reinforcement learner. So a reinforcement learner is a machine learning algorithm that this is how most AI systems learn today. It's a really good learning method for AI systems, which is it's an algorithm. When you break it down, what it is, it's a very stupid algorithm that doesn't know anything about the world, doesn't know much about anything. All it knows is, did I win or did I fail? And so usually reinforcement learner algorithms are great for video games because you can just tell it exactly if it failed or if it won. And then what it does is it makes random decisions, literally randomly, and it says, okay, let me try to win the game. It makes a random decision and it fails. Usually it fails like a lot. And you see it playing a video game and it dies like an idiot. It's just like doesn't know what it's doing. So then it fails, and then it says, okay, let me not do that again. And let me try another random set of decisions. That's not the same one that I took because then I failed. And then it just does it over and over again. And it just keeps failing and failing and failing and failing and failing.
Yep.
And then eventually after the millionth try of doing the of attempting, then it becomes unbeatable. And the best human players who are talented and creative, who know a lot about the game and the reasoning, they get beat by this literally random
Right.
generate like this reinforcement learner that doesn't know anything about anything. It just knows if it's failing and it's trying not to fail. And so in stand-up comedy, it's one of the great things about stand-up that I learned was it's one of the only art forms that you have to practice in front of a crowd. So like a lot of musicians, a lot of artists, poetry, painting, writing, you can do in your room. You can practice in your room and not have to interact with anybody. Stand-up, you cannot do that. So as soon as you have the joke, you write the joke, you literally have to, and you get addicted to it. You have to tell the joke to a crowd. You have to find a spot in New York City. You got to go to an open mic and you have to tell a crowd. You have to go up on stage and tell the joke to see if it works, even when the joke doesn't have legs. And that's why the best comedians fail like 50% of the time, because they're trying out new material all the time. That's how you come up with new material. And so it forces you to like literally get yourself. I learned that viscerally from stand-up, but like the best way to learn anything true about the real world is to go and attempt it, to try it out. You can't. Most of the world's problems, you cannot sit the smartest people in the world in a room and be like, oh, let's think about how to solve these problems. You know what I mean? Because the world is not rational, right? It's not math that you could just like the perfect forms and bind them together. You have to go into the real world and test things out. And because the world is not perfect, it's not rational. So the only way to get things done really well and to produce amazing things and beautiful things, you have to go and test it out with the real world. And a lot of startups, entrepreneurship is you have an idea, you go and try it out, MVP, you launch quickly, you fail, you learn from that, you do it again and again and again. And so that's kind of what got me hooked on tech, which was I had an internship with a Forbes author when I was a junior in college. We interviewed a bunch of tech founders. He needed somebody who was funny to punch up his interviews. And when I interviewed all these tech founders, the way they talked about building their companies and their products was very similar to what I was doing in stand-up. It's like you just try something, you fail, you learn again and again and again and again and again and again. And then that's how you become like unbeatable. So,
all right, that's it. So how does that play out in a company culture? How do you build the right structure at Rilla to perform in that way?
So the first operating principle is we're trying to build a human reinforcement learner as an organization. That's the first operating principle. And so I read the biographies of Walt Disney, Steve Jobs, Nikola Tesla, Edison, Westinghouse. I just read the one from Elon Musk. And what I saw, that I was trying to figure out, what was it that made these people so special and their company so special? What made them so special? And I was like, oh, maybe they were the smartest people in the world. And I read their biographies and they were not. They were really smart, but they were not the smartest people. They had smarter people around them. Were they the most hardworking? They were really hardworking. Amongst the top most hardworking people, they were not the most hardworking people. There's people who work in teaching and iBanking and journalism who work just as hard as they do. There's so many hours in the day, so you can't, there's like, that's not
there's
very
upper bound on that.
Yeah, you can't be the most hardworking person of all people because people could just do that, And then it was like, were they the most creative? And I was like, no, they were really creative, but they were not. They had more creative people around them. And I was like, was it the combination? Were they really creative, really smart, really hardworking? Yes, but there was also very creative, very smart, very hardworking people around them that were just as creative, if not more, just as smart, if not more, just as hardworking. And then I was like, okay, what's the critical sauce here? And then I realized, reading their biographies, it became very clear with Edison and with Steve Jobs, everybody, Elon Musk, the same thing. Their superpower and their company's superpower was that they were willing to fail more than anybody else. That was it. They were just willing. Edison with the 10,000 tries to get the light bulb to work, right? It's like you find out the 9,000 times the tries that doesn't work, and then the one that does. That's a reinforcement learner. Elon Musk with like trying to go to space. You crash down the first 3 rocket ships, and then the 4th one works, and then you keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And that's the other thing about these people. It's that not only did they fail enough, first, it's like they had an insane tolerance, an insane appetite for failure, because it hurts them like anybody else. But it's almost like this masochism. They got addicted to like, let's fail again and let's fail again. Because what you see is that with Edison with the light bulb, when he figured that out, right? You could have been like, oh my God, that's enough for a lifetime, right? Like you're done, man. You brought electricity to the masses.
You're good.
You made the light bulb. Like, good job, like go rest in peace. No, it's like after that, he he created the power plant so you can actually have the distribution channels and like people that could actually turn up these iPhones. Then it was like, okay, he got fired out of his company by JP Morgan, got acquired. Then it's like, okay, now I'm going to he invented the phonograph before the light bulb. And then he invented, I don't remember the name of the device, but this thing that was literally what started the movie industry. And he invented that. And it's like these people get almost like whenever they get to a steady state, and it's like they figured it out and they're winning and they're winning 100% of the time. They're like, ooh, I don't like that. Let me go and fail again.
I need to push myself.
And let me go to the uncomfortable. And then Steve Jobs with the Macintosh, you would have been, oh my God, I ushered personal computing. Awesome. Let's go and start Pixar. Elon Musk, the same thing. It's like, okay, we did PayPal. And now I'm like, he's so addicted. He's almost like masochistic in that sense.
Right.
He always goes to war. And so we try to, and then that's where I was like, that's the important quality that they haven't. People like Edison, when people think about the 10,000 tries to get the light bulb, they don't realize he was working in a lab for 10 years, just trying to make this little light bulb work, right? Just and trying and failing and trying and getting the copper wire and getting all these different materials. And how do we get this thing to not blow up and getting it was really hard for 10 years and it wasn't working, right? Most people would have given up. You know what I mean? At try 100, at try 500, at try 1,000, like 3 years in, oh my God,
right.
5 years in, Jesus, So they have a really big appetite for failure. Mr. Beast is another one that I look up to today. You see his journey on YouTube. It's 10 years of failing, and then it finally starts working. And so, how we try to operate Rilla is we try to emulate those. How we try to turn ourselves into human reinforcement learners as individuals, and then as an organization. And the way we do that, we have a set of 8 operating principles. The first one is, and we try to follow those like to the T. We hire for those principles. We fire for those principles. We promote for them. The first principle is the reinforcement learner is a very simple algorithm in a sense. The goal, it just has one goal. It's a unique, like you cannot give the reinforcement learner multiple goals. You have to give it one. It's like, do you win or do you fail, right? And you want to win.
Yeah.
So for us at Rilla, it means we don't have a lot of goals. We have one goal. And our goal is to solve our customers' pains. That's it. We are not in business to be on TechCrunch and to be, on the 430 under 30 or whatever the hell. We're not in business to have a high valuation. We are not in business we're not in business for anything else other than solving our customers' pain. So we're very customer obsessed in terms of that singular lens. And so people ask me like, oh, so does that mean but revenue is a good metric. It's a good proxy to see if that's a good metric, but it's not perfect, right? Because if you're really obsessed about solving your customers' pains, and you're not just revenue obsessed, but obsessed about your customers, then what it means at Rilla, for instance, we reject a lot of our pipeline because we don't think that those customers, we're going to be able to help them solve their problems because they're not the right fit for us right now. So we're not obsessed about revenue. We're obsessed about, hey, can we actually help you solve your problems? If you're not the right fit of customers for us right now, we will say no. And people say, oh, so then retention's a great metric. Retention's a great metric, but it's not perfect. Because what if you launch with a customer that you realize it's not a good fit for this product right now? If you're obsessed about retention, you're going to try to retain them, even though you know that you cannot solve their pains. So there's been times where we fired some of our customers because we realized like, hey, and we give them their money back. It's like, hi, guys, this is not going to be a good product for you right now. Because we're very, 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 very obsessive and very singular in our focus. So then it's like, okay, so reinforcement learner, principle number 1, you have to be very, very cutthroat. You have to be very clear about what the goal is, and you have to have one goal. And that goal for us is our customers. And so then it's speed. We try to move fast, not, there was this old adage, people say like, oh, if you move fast, then you're doing it at the expense of quality sometimes. And it's like, yes, we believe that fast gets good before good gets fast.
So that's a trade-off you're willing to make.
Yeah, 1,000%. We are willing to launch something very quickly for the sake of it being very quickly, even if it doesn't have a high chance of working out. Because again, we're trying to test it. We're trying to see if it's going to work out. Then it's like we maximize our productive time. And maximize productive time. That's like going back to like we work 6 days a week at Rilla. So we do that because. So he's like, okay, you're obsessed with one of these hustle culture, like grinding, blah, blah, blah. Well, we don't work 7 days a week. We work 6 days a week. It's very specific because we want to maximize our productive time. What does that mean? if we believe like we do believe that true learning doesn't come from being the smartest, of being the, we don't believe in work smart, not hard. We do not believe that. We believe the harder you work and the faster you work, the smarter you get, because that's true intelligence. True intelligence happens in the world, not in your head, right? So if we believe that, then the reason we like to work a lot, the average real employee works like 72 hours a week, is that the more swings at the bat that you get to try out new ideas, the more you're going to fail, and the higher chances you're going to get at finding that one critical idea that's going to give you that 10x or the 100x return, right? Because that's what the reinforcement does. It's like you see it fail a bunch of times, and then somehow it learns the particular path that's going to lead it to a local maxima.
Yeah.
That's going to start winning over and over and over and over again. And so we maximize our productive time because we're trying to maximize our chance. Because people say like, oh, that means that people say like, oh, you work on the weekends. That means you're 20% more productive than the average company. No. We're not 20% more productive. Well, in fact, we work twice the number of hours that an average company, but we're not twice as productive, because what happens is, because everybody's doing this, you maximize the chances that somebody is going to figure something out, whether it's in sales or marketing or product, that's going to unlock 100 or 1,000x return. And we've seen that multiple times at Rilla. And the more we do that, because it's like learning compounds faster than interest rate. It does. Mm-hmm. So if you're learning 2x faster every single week, that after a year of doing that, the learning's going to compound so much that you're going to be so much more ahead of anybody else that was not doing that. And learning is also like kind of like, when you play a sport, and like this happens to even athletes, when you play a sport and you're like at the peak of your, performance, it's almost like you're in the flow all the time. It's like you go and play a game and it's like muscle memory, everything. But let's say that you stop playing for like a while, right? And then you have to get back on it. You're going to be a little bit rusty. It's going to take you a little bit of time to reset and to get back in it. So what we try to do is get everybody in that flow state where all of these learnings, it's like in your short-term memory, in your long-term memory, and your muscles and in your veins. It's like, so you just know all of these things that without even knowing that you know.
Background knowledge.
It's just, you just know them because you're so invested and you're so obsessed and you're so consumed by the work that it just takes you on. And that's what we're trying to do. Try to generate. And then the fourth principle, and I could go through all of them, but I'll just
they're all great. No, keep going.
Yeah. So the fourth principle is unafraid of failure. That's that's critical, because the reinforcement learner it literally has no shame. It doesn't care. It just keeps failing ad infinitum. That's what it does. It just does not care. It fails and it dies in the game, and then it goes back and does it again, and it fails again and does it again. And so we are not afraid. And that's one of the hardest ones that I've seen from because we hire a lot of smart kids that come from these like really, really great universities, and they have obviously very high ambition. And I literally saw that what Jensen Huang said from NVIDIA. I literally saw this at my company. I've seen this where a lot of these kids who we hire out of college, they have a really hard time with this principle, because the fear of failure is embedded so deeply into them. Yeah. Especially when you have very high expectations, especially when you're very ambitious. You fear so much that you're not going to be great, that you're not going to be perfect. And that's horrible. That is actually horrible. And I think, talking about, and I think that's for a lot of reasons. Obviously, there's a biological fear of failure, but a lot of it is this weird game that we make everybody play in modern society when they go to school. Where it's like, I read a book called The Art of Game Design, where the author basically said, like, if you think about the game of schooling, it's such a horribly designed game, because as a designer, you would never design a game where the player starts with 100% of the points, and then every time they take a risk,
they lose points. They decrement points away from them.
You get taken away. They're like, that's horrible.
Would not work. Yeah.
You design games that you can earn points and
build momentum.
Yeah. And then literally from when kids are young, everything's like a multiple choice answer. And if you get it wrong, you lose points. And so you get literally conditioned to not want to get things wrong. But that's horrible, because if you're going to innovate, if you're going to invent, if you're going to create anything interesting in the world, you're going to have to get it wrong. Yeah. Because if you don't get it wrong, then you're not inventing anything. Yep. If you get it right 100% of the time, it's not interesting.
The other thing I love about your insight is that it presumes that there's a fixed pie, and that you're decrementing away from the top. I was a teacher before business school, and a lot of times students are conditioned to say, if you're being called out, it's because you did something bad.
Yes.
And if you flip that on its head and you only get called out for doing things that are good,
Yeah.
that changes your psychology. Like
So-
you behave in a different way.
So then people come people come with all this baggage and that's the hardest one. It's
Fear of
not
failure.
the fear of failure is the hardest principle for us to really seep into people's heads. It's not even the productivity. Productivity is easy for people. There's people that are willing to work like the 6 hours. Like there's people in iBanking who work 100 hours. We don't like that either because we don't think that maximizes that productive time, because then people are, if you're going to do creative work, your brain needs to be powered up. And if you're not sleeping, we want people to sleep and work out. And that's why we say 6 hours, you take 1 day of break. That's how a lot of human beings worked for a lot of history. A lot of the big religions have that. It's like you take 1 day of rest. You know what I mean? So we think that's actually an optimal schedule for a lot of human beings. We don't think that the 100-hour work week or the 120 hours, then you're going to start giving up sleep and you're going to start giving up working out and eating healthy. We don't want you to do that because we want you to maximize your productive time. So 72 hours, anything above 80 hours, we've seen it's like hard for, like, you just have to give things up, and we don't want you to give up sleep. We don't want you to give up. But that one's easy for people. Like literally 72 hours, a lot of people are going to do that. The hard part is like, oh my God, like we've had people at Rilla cry because they fail. And we're like, what are you doing? Wait, what? Reinforcement learner. You skip it.
We're going to celebrate this.
Let's, we clap when people mess up. We start clapping, so that it's kind of like a baby when it falls and you're like trying to convince it that be like, yeah,
You're good. You're strong.
and the baby just like, oh, okay,
Maybe I'm good.
yeah.
I have 2 little kids, so I
Yeah.
am familiar with this concept. Yeah.
You're
so tough.
Yeah, you've seen it. They like fall flat on their face and they're like about to cry, and you're like, ah. So we have to condition people for that. It's a very hard thing.
Yeah.
So we have a bunch of principles, but we're all trying to emulate the reinforcement learner.
That's great.
So
what's the 5th principle?
5th principle is we are unconventional. We try to it's like we like to follow the unconventional path. Conventions are, we will take conventions. It's not like we are against conventions. It's just that we find them boring. We don't find them very interesting. We'll use them, but it's just boring. It's just not exciting. We get so excited for the unconventional. And I think unconventional needs the excitement. You can't just treat the unconventional the same as, like, we give a premium for unconventional. We love unconventional because unconventional usually doesn't work out. But we love that because we give it the premium, and it's like our preferred child. You know what I mean? If you have a conventional child and unconventional,
We're going to go with the one that's
we love the unconventional child.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is when you see the reinforcement learner, like OpenAI, you see that a lot of these reinforcement learners, they were trained playing video games, right? There's all these parallels between AI and video games. It's NVIDIA, video games. And so you look at the OpenAI, they came out with Dota, with this AI system, reinforcement learner that could play Dota, and it played against the best players in the world, and it beat the crap out of them. It just beat the crap out of them. And they were the best players in the world playing together against the OpenAI system. And it wasn't even a competition. It was a bloodbath. It wasn't like Gary Kasparov against IBM Deep Blue. It was like a close match. No. This was a massacre. And Dota is a very hard game to understand and to play. So the fact that this game won, everybody was like, that was one of those moments where everybody was like, ooh, okay, we got something here with AI, right? And you see that the reason why it was winning is that the human players, they play using their reason and their talent and their logic. This game doesn't know any of that. It doesn't know reason or logic. It just knows if it's failing or winning. That's all it knows. It doesn't reason, right? It's just like, I'm just making decisions, trying to win. And a lot of the times it would make these really weird moves that the players were like, huh? And it would confuse them, bam. It would like make, and you see it make these really insane, like the human player would never come up with them because they're so they're so wacky. And you see it play, and you see that it's like not following a pattern.
Right.
And it breaks the pattern really quick. It's like, and so the reinforcement learner, some of the times, the local maxima for winning the game is something that you would have never even thought of. You would have never thought with logic. So you have to support the unconventional thinking. And at Rilla, we do this thing. Walt Disney used to have this whole there's a few companies in history that really have a true respect for the creative process. Most companies don't respect the creative process. Most companies are not even creative as an organization. But there's a few companies in history that really respect the creative process. And Walt Disney was one of these companies. And the way that you respect the creative process, he segmented it. So like there was idea stage, right? And in idea stage, there's a dream world. It's like where anything goes. It's yes and territory. There's no constraints. There's no skepticism.
Yep.
There's no barriers. It's just like your imagination can really run wild. And this is where they would start. It's brainstorming. We're going to make a new cartoon. And you see Mickey Mouse doing all this crazy stuff, because it comes from and you have to let idea world run wild.
Right.
And because you're going to get so many, because if you put logic on it, then you're going to miss out on so much value.
Yeah.
You're going to miss out on so much value if you constrain ideal world. So then you do ideal world. And then after you do ideal world, after you've had a great session of just going wild, then you bring the skeptic hat on, right?
Yeah.
You start pointing out why all these ideas are not going to work and blah, blah, blah. And then finally, once you put the skeptic hat on, then you put the practical hat on and you say, okay, from all of these different things, what can we actually get done, right?
Yep.
Let me put my practical hat on. Let's see, what can we actually do, right? Based on the potential of the idea and based on the constraints of what we can and cannot do, what could I actually really push forward to get done?
Mm-hmm.
And, Brian Chesky, he recently came out with there's like a viral thing. He came out with the Airbnb icons.
Yeah.
Where he literally, you can go and live in the up house and it goes up like that.
Yeah.
That's something that comes from ideal world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you don't have that respect for the creative process, you're going to miss out on so much. And so the fifth principle is we love to travel the unconventional path. We love it. We know that it's not going to work most of the time. We know that it's not going to work. We just love it. We just love it. And anytime somebody has an unconventional idea, especially when you work with a lot of engineers love to put the skeptic hat on because they're like, oh, they love constraints and they love systems and we try to beat that out of our engineers. We'll be no. And we say, no. Hey, we're yes ending now. Hey, no, don't give me that crap. Don't give me no. Don't do that. We're in the ideal world. You cannot do this.
No constraints.
Yeah. We're like with SpongeBob and Patrick, where they go in their imagination box. It's like, hey, we're just in imagination. Okay. Your weird engineering logic. I hate that right now. So take it out. Take it out of here. And so that one's a hard one also to beat into people. Principle number 6 is infinite learning. Infinite learning means you find a local maxima. The reinforcement learner, even though it finds a local maxima and it starts winning the game over and over and over again, it doesn't stop trying to fail and learn. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So
you differentiate that from high-speed learning by saying it creates the idea that you're never done.
Yeah, correct. The reinforcement learner is never done. It's always programmed to continue to learn and to continue to fail, even though it found a local maxima, right? Yeah. It continues to try to. There's never the whole point is that you can never find a universal maxima. Yeah. Every maxima that you find that you start winning,
it's a local maxima.
It's a local maxima, and so but you could always, and we've seen this every single time with our product. Every single time, like our go-to-market, we have seen that over and over again, that you could always make improvements, and you can only make improvements if you're willing to go that extra mile and say, okay, we got it to a steady state, but let's go again and try to go to failure land and try to fail again so that we can improve. And then principle number 7 is we work, we grow, and we learn together as a team. The only way that you can emulate a reinforcement learner as a human is really, there's no way to do it, but unless you're working with other people, because the machine has way more memory than you do. And you have very limited memory. Our short-term memories are very limited, actually. We can only focus on a few things at a time, like 7 bits of information at a time. So if you, and division of labor, that's one of the greatest inventions, I think, in history, is division of labor. The fact that we realize, oh my God, if I focus on this and you focus on that, and then we trade and we work together, we can actually make the whole, like our teamwork, better than the sum of its parts. That's what happens when people trade. It's an amazing, magical thing. And so I'm the CEO. I focus on building teams. I focus on culture. I focus on hiring. I focus on fundraising. I focus on the vision for the future. I'm not focused on, like, how do I make, I designed the demos originally for sales, but I'm not focused on how do we improve the demos, right? Every single day. That's my salespeople. They're doing that, and they're encouraged to go and learn. And so I'm not focused on how do we make I'm focused on it from the high level, but I'm not focused on the nitty gritty of how do we make a customer success experience onboarding better, right? I'm focused on the product a lot, but I'm not focused on the nitty gritty of the engineering details, right? So people are focused on different things. It's great. And so what happens is, and everybody's encouraged to go and continue to fail and continue to fail and continue to fail, and to take what they learn from Rilla, and we give them things like a baseline, but then go and start building on that. Everybody, every single person is encouraged. At Rilla, one of the things is like, not only do we allow you to fail, that's good, but we expect you to. We expect you, if you're not failing enough at
You're
Rilla,
not trying hard
it
enough.
means that you're not part of the culture. You're just like not getting on board with this principle. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you're not actually improving
Yeah.
you're not improving the company.
So will you ask that in a one-on-one? Like, when was the last time you failed? Tell me about
ask
your most recent
we ask
failure.
it different. We tell me your top 3 fuck ups.
Okay.
And then if they cannot come up with 3, then we just reject them.
You didn't perform.
Yeah, you just don't get in. If you don't have 3 times that you screwed up,
Yeah.
then we don't take you in.
Yeah. Well, that's in the interview phase.
Yeah.
I'm asking, like, when you're coaching people, you're talking to your.
Oh, yeah. And one-on-ones. So like what we do is, well, that's the principle of learning and growing together as a team. We start all of our meetings with if you're the manager, you tell the direct report, do you have any feedback for me? Right.
Mm.
And we tell people we stole this from Netflix. They have a great culture for negative feedback. We love negative feedback. Negative feedback means that somebody's sharing a failure that you're doing and they're wanting you to improve. But negative feedback, people get so defensive because, again, they're afraid of failure and also these things. So the way we start our meetings is, if I'm meeting with a direct report, I say, hey, do you have any feedback for me? If they give me some positive crap, I'm like, hey, what are you doing? What are we? Like, when the Teletubbies, like, what are we going to sing songs? Like, give me negative feedback.
Yeah.
Like, what do you, like, this doesn't help. Adam, we're doing great. Okay. What do I do with that? It doesn't help me. It doesn't help me improve. Give me negative feedback. And so we try to keep 80% negative feedback, 20% positive feedback.
Oh, that's very unconventional.
Yeah. We do not like positive feedback is so useless most of the time. It's like so stupid. It's like, oh, you did great. What? And that's part of I've noticed, I'm not American. That's part of the American culture. I've noticed when people give negative feedback here, they go and they say, hey, you did this, so you did great at this and this and that, and you're doing a great job here. But we skip the crap. We're like, give me negative feedback.
Yeah.
And we enforce that from the managerial standpoint. We're like, the manager's asking for negative feedback first to let the direct report know that it's okay.
Right.
It's okay to
lead was constructive.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the manager goes, okay, let me give you negative feedback. And that's how we start all of our meetings, right? All of our meetings, right? And people at Rilla, then they get addicted to that, which is great. You know what I mean? Because when they ask you, hey, do you have any feedback for me? And you're like, not really at the moment. Sorry. You're like,
Let me down.
Because then that means that
I have some negative feedback for you. You didn't bring enough constructive feedback.
Yeah. I've gotten that feedback before. Be like, I need you to give me more feedback. And I'm like, I know. So yeah, we learn, we grow, and we win together as a team. What that means is you have to have an insanely transparent culture where people can have access to information at any single time, right? Because if I expect them to be learning on their own, then if you have an organization and everybody's playing their own reinforcement learner and trying and failing,
Yeah.
but these little entities are not sharing the information with each other, then it's a waste of time, because you're going to have people learning about the same things and you're having to relearn things. You know what I mean? So it's even the reinforcement learner,
create a local optimum.
The algorithm literally learns like that also. The only reason the reinforcement learner is able to play the game so many times over is because you have a bunch of computers playing the same game over and over again, and then it shares the learnings to the algorithm.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's the same, that you have to share the learnings. You have to be insanely transparent. At Rilla, everybody has access to our finances. Everybody has access to all of our metrics. We give everybody an onboarding where we give them, any person at Rilla can tell you exactly where we are in terms of our growth rate. And everybody has access to everything, because we want them to have all the context so that they can make the best decisions possible in their own domain, right?
Yep.
And then share that back to the team. And we encourage people to share. That's what we share feedback openly to your managers. I think we're doing this wrong because of this and this and that, right? Thank you for the feedback.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we have all these ways to, and then final principle is capital efficiency. Unlike the reinforcement learner, we don't have a limited trial and error. So we are constrained by resources. So, and that's a really weird principle. Like, how do you have if you just hear all of the principles that I just told you, except for this last one, 8, you would think, oh, Rilla is one of these startups that's like high growth at all costs, kind of like burning a ton of money.
Cash in the middle of the table. Yeah.
We're actually one of the most capital efficient startups ever. And high growth. We're very high growth. We're insanely high growth. And we're one of the, so if you look at Rilla's growth rate, we went from like 0 to 8 figures in like 2 years. And so we're like growing faster than Salesforce, faster than Figma, faster than Apple Computer, right behind Amazon, right? And a lot of startups are doing that now. Like the best startups of this generation, I think, are going to be the fastest growing startups ever because of AI and because people have learned. Perplexity is one of these startups that's grown insanely fast, right? I think Perplexity might be one of the only companies that I've seen that's growing faster than Rilla today. So we're one of the fastest growing startups in the world right now, and in history, right? So that's true. But what's also true is that we did this with a team of like 28 people. And you know what I mean? So we're also one of the most capital efficient startups. So both are true. Like we prioritize speed over anything. We are unafraid of making mistakes. So we make a lot of mistakes. We like to do unconventional things that are likely to fail. How do you do that while keeping capital efficient culture? That sounds insane, actually.
Yeah.
But both of those are true. And the outcomes, we grow really fast and we do try a lot of things and we do a lot of unconventional things while keeping we don't burn anything. We're actually a cash flow positive company. We don't burn anything. Like our burn multiples, like we've raised less cash than we have ARR. So like we don't like, so those two things, how do we do that? That's such a weird thing to do. And it's like, it goes back to this thing. We do two things. We practice extreme focus. So we constrain all of our experiments and all of our conventional thinking on 1 to 3 key areas that we know are going to have the highest impact at this moment right now. So we don't just try anything everywhere all at once. No, we say, this is the area, this is the domain in product, this is the domain in market that we're going to try all of our experiments. And then we encourage everybody to like try a bunch of ideas. And then one of those is likely to work. You know what I mean? And so, but we keep it super focused. And then number 2, we try minimum viable tests. So anything can go to Jeff Bezos says, failure is actually very cheap to innovate, to start something new. The only time something gets expensive, it's when it works, because that's when you start scaling it. And that's when you start, but failure is very cheap. It's very cheap to fail. I mean, and if you practice the concept of MVP every single time, the MVP of Rilla, when we started Rilla, we had an idea, oh my God, we're going to capture all these billions of conversations happening in offline commerce. We're going to make offline commerce as searchable as Google did for the web, right? Because most of commerce is people interacting with each other face to face. And so if we can capture it and analyze it, we can give all businesses the power to understand their customers that Google and Amazon have. And so we were like, oh my God, we need to build an AI system that can deal with noise from face-to-face conversations, that can separate speakers. We kind of had an idea of all the problem sets we're going to work on. We didn't do any of that. We didn't go out and start building an AI system. We just went out, me and my co-founder, we started listening to face-to-face conversations and seeing if there was any insights to them, right? That was our MVP. It was very cheap. It just cost us like a couple of all-nighters, right? Of us staying up and listening to audio and like putting the things on the, on a spreadsheet and then giving the insights to the customer and being like, hey, what do you think about this? And they're like, oh my God, this AI is great. And I was like, yeah, it's very smart. And so
not so artificial.
But we don't have to build anything. We don't have to buy any servers. We don't have to, you see what I'm saying? It's very cheap. But then when it worked, then it started, so you can actually fail really fast, very cheaply. Most people think that failure is expensive. Failure is not expensive if you're actually doing it the way we're doing it, because the way that we do it, we do it so quick, you know what I mean? And so small, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And Jeff Bezos says like, oh my God, I have like billions of, like literally tens of billions of dollars of failure in Amazon, which is like literally, you think that's waste. That's not waste. That's not waste. That's just part of the process of the creative process of learning. Right. So that's not waste. And of course you're going to see, and if you look at the micro, you're going to see like, we waste money on this, we waste money on that. No, we didn't waste it. We learned from it. We didn't do it again. Right. And so then the next time it was much better. Yeah. But it allows us to unlock all these 10x and 100x and 1000x unlock that. Yeah. And so, yeah, those are the 8 principles.
Those are awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Yes.
That's great. No, there's a lot of wisdom packed into that. I really love your reflections on history and on people that have built important things creatively through time. I'm a big fan of David Sinra's Founders Podcast, and I was listening to his story about.
Which one's that one?
David, he does stories about people through history.
Okay.
And then he synthesizes it and then tells the story.
Oh, I think I've heard of this. One of my
engineers. He's great. You would love it. And so on the way here, I was listening to his recounting of Walt Disney's story, and he writes about something called sadistic perseverance.
Yes.
He's working so hard that it's almost like it's taxing him, but for the area that gives him joy. Yes. Because his bar for excellence is so high. Yeah. And it was almost Steve Jobs like. Yeah. No one will ever see this, but you'll know how good the motherboard was and the design and how elegant it was. And that's a really, really interesting insight that draws from history and build your company with it. Yeah. And even those people, like when you think about Steve Jobs, Walt Disney, they also prioritize speed to an insane degree. Sure. Even these people that you think of like, oh, quality obsessive, but my God, man, they were just moving so insanely fast. The time between Walt Disney launching the vision for Disneyland and opening was a year and a day.
Yeah. Like these people were just cutthroat in terms of speed. They just did not.
July to July.
So, and they were quality obsessive too. So they
100%.
really cared about quality, but they knew that you had to get things out there, put it in the hands of people. What made Walt Disney be able to like create Snow White is that he had, I think it was like five to 10 years of experience. 5 to 10 years. Yeah, because he made Snow White in 1930 something or 1940. Yeah. So it was probably like 10 years, more than 10 years of experience of making cartoons.
Yeah.
Quick cartoons that he could go and test out with people. So I gave him all of the, you know what I mean, to make a big so
it's fascinating that his best work, arguably Disneyland, comes 20 years in. So it's in the early 50s that he.
So what's so funny about Disneyland, you think about the capital efficiency thing, Walt Disney, like his company was always not making money. It was always, cartoons were a very difficult business. So everything Mr. Beast is, to me, reminds me of Walt Disney because it's the same thing, very low margin business. They reinvest everything, they grow everything, they become like, and then they try. And it's like super creative people, but he literally made no money for like the first, I think it was like 30 years of his career. It's like he was a worldwide celebrity, but his margins were, he was always scrambling for money for all his life. And it wasn't until Disneyland that they actually started making money and they found the business model. I was like, okay, this is a very profitable thing because people are making an investment. And that's it's still Disney's model today. It was like they make this marketing with the new characters and they make you go to Disneyland.
That is the system.
Parks. The parks revenue is the most profitable. And it's like, so, and he figured that out like but that's, you see what I'm saying? That's the guy who started with a cartoon, okay, with a black and white cartoon with where the sound wasn't even synchronized, right? And then he created Disneyland. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the reason he was able to do that is because this insatiable appetite for failure. Yeah. Like this guy could, and you read the biography, and there was times where he would just get bored.
Yeah.
He's like, oh my God, I know how to do this. And he would always need a big project to work on to like satisfy his insanity, his appetite for.
Yep.
So yeah. As a reinforcement learner, man, it's if you get hooked on that, it's hard. It's hard to get.
It's powerful.
Elon Musk, you read the biography, you're like, why did he do Twitter? He did Twitter because he was tired of being the really profitable companies that were growing and like Tesla, SpaceX, best, most valuable companies in the world. And he's like, I want to go back to war, man. I need
a new challenge.
Literally, that's what it was. And people are like, what are you doing?
Yeah. That's hilarious. And one thing I love about your culture is that you're constantly iterating, you're evolving, you're failing, you're getting better. What was the process of arriving at that definition of the problem?
Oh my God. So like, so at Rilla, we follow this concept of reinforcement learner. We try to fail really fast. We try to fail forward. Most founders make the mistake when they start that they believe that product market fit is a one-sided equation and they pick the wrong side of the equation. Finding product market fit is a two-sided equation where actually the market side of the equation matters more than the product side of the equation, right? A lot of founders are technical, so they like go into doing products.
Yeah.
I used to do stand-up comedy, so to me, validating things quickly was like second part, like it was second nature. And so what we did at Rilla, so Rilla we started in 2019, October 2019. From October 2019 to January 2022, it was zero traction. Like our first 3 years of business was just us going out of business. We had nothing, right? The idea was it started in field marketing. We had a field marketing management software that we'd help companies like Red Bull and Molson Coors and Heineken do field marketing. Field marketing is when you get a bunch of college kids in uniforms, you send them out to college campuses, and then the idea was like they had millions and millions of conversations happening outside, face to face every single month, and they were spending a lot of money. Heineken, Molson Coors, Coca-Cola, Red Bull, they were spending hundreds of millions of dollars on surveys, on consumer insights that they got from research from Nielsen and IRI, on focus groups, on social media analytics for firms like Sprinkler. And they were only capturing like 500,000 points of interactions from consumers every single month through social media, through surveys, through everything. And the first problem that Rilla identified was that there was a lot of money being spent on consumer insights with very little data in return. And the data was very slow. It would take like 3 months to run a survey and get results because who fills out a survey? Like less than 1% of people fill out a survey. And focus groups, it was such an inefficient way. And what we realized is like, well, you have 4 million conversations happening every single month through field marketing, through your brand ambassadors talking to consumers. That's 10 times more data that you're capturing online. what if we could capture those 4 million conversations and process them, because people are talking about your products, and understand the brand sentiment, what people like, what they don't like about your products. And so you can kind of get consumer insights more, faster, better, more high quality from real people, right? And that was the idea for Rilla. We called it Rilla because it comes from guerrilla marketing, right? Because it comes from field marketing. And the idea was we're going to capture and then we thought, well, from field marketing, we were like, oh, well, there's field marketing, but Heineken also has salespeople that go into the field and sell in restaurants and bars and supermarkets. And then we were like, oh, why stop at food and beverage? What about the people who go outside and sell windows, siding, plumbing, doors, HVAC, electrician, solar, roofing? What about the people who sell in retail stores? And we're like, oh, there's 12 million outside sales and service people in America. They're having 10 billion conversations with consumers every single month. What if we could capture all of those and make all of these conversations insightful for businesses, so that all businesses, not just Google and Amazon, all business could understand their customers as well as Google and Amazon do. And so that was the vision for Rilla. The use case, right? Very different than the virtual ride-along use case. It was consumer insights, powered by AI, powered by real life conversations. That was a use case. When we started in field marketing, true to our kind of reinforcement learner practices, we launched, our MVP was like me and my co-founder listening to the audio. And we realized the field marketing use case didn't work that well. Not because of the product or anything, but because of the market side of the equation. When we launched and we listened to these conversations, there was one where it was this girl, Caitlin, just screaming at the top of her lungs, everybody sign up for Cash App, we have free pizza. And she just screamed that for like 3 hours at an event.
She was just shouting that.
She was just screaming that because they're at an event and be like, everybody sign up for Cash App, we got free pizza. And that was it.
That was the pitch.
And it was just college kids screaming and Pitbull singing in the background. It was a frat party, right? So it's a mess. And so we're listening to this and I'm like, okay, if we were to build this AI, and it could understand everything, and we asked it, what insights can you capture from this conversation? It would say, your brand has a high association with the word pizza, because it was a mess. It just didn't, there was no, it's nonsense, right? It was just screaming. So we were like, okay, that's not a product problem. That's a market problem. The other problem that we found is that the field marketing brand ambassadors, they were college kids that were doing a gig for the weekend. They were not full-time employees. So every time that they would use Rilla, was their first time of using Rilla. So it was impossible to get retention. Impossible. Because every time that they were using Rilla, they were like, oh my God, what is this recording? And we could never get over that hump because it always was the first time that they were using Rilla. So then we thought, okay, we need to find a different market that has more insightful conversations, less noisy conversations that make a little bit more sense, where the people are full-time employees. And that was January 2020. We went to retail, because retail, and we tested out in retail. It worked. The retail conversations are way more insightful. They actually provide a lot of insights, because you're talking at length about what you want to buy, what you want, what you need, the features of the product, all these different things. But in retail, first problem is we launched in January 2020 with non-essential New York retailers.
So that's going,
So COVID came, kind of was difficult. We didn't pivot out of retail because of COVID. We pivoted because we realized in retail, the margins are way lower. So a product like this, it actually requires significant costs. At the time, back in 2020, we had already started to process these. It wasn't just us manually listening to the audio like we used to before. It was us trying to build the AI that could actually do this. And what we realized is that the cost, there's a marginal cost to processing these conversations, the audio, the transcription, the analytics, or the natural language processing. It's very expensive. And the margins that the retailers, like the price that the retailers are willing to pay, was not enough to cover the marginal cost, right? Because when we realized, like, if you go to a retail store, there's a lot of value in all the conversations on aggregate, but the value per conversation per capita, like the value per capita of a single conversation is not that much to justify, but it costs you the same money to transcribe it. And so we were like, okay, we need to find higher margin industries where the microphone is easier to set up, because in retail, the other problem was the microphone. Imagine you walk into a Zara store and you talk to the sales associate at the Zara store, and then, you talk to them, you go change, you come out, you talk to somebody else. It's very difficult to keep track of the conversation, right?
Yep.
Because you're talking to so many different people, and then the microphone, where do you put the microphone to capture this? Is very difficult. It was a very difficult problem. So we were like, okay, what if we find a market that has a better microphone setup, that is very clear. It has a clear beginning and a clear end to the conversation, and the employees, and they are higher margin sales or higher margin services, and at a higher ticket. And that's when we started going into field sales. right? So we every single time that we would launch in a market, we would look at the product problems and we would look at the market problems. And we would say, is there a market that kind of solves these market constraints that we have right now? And every time we would launch in a new market, we would solve the previous constraints, but we would find new ones. And then we were like, okay, we literally tested 17 different market verticals before we landed on home improvement on the virtual ride-along use case. Before the vision was still the same. The vision is still the same as the beginning, but the original use case, wow, it changed so many times because we were trying to find that product market fit. And when we found product market fit with the virtual ride along use case, oh my God, that's when things just started. Well, we started selling in 2022 and we went from like 0 to 8 figures and we became one of the fastest growing companies in the world right now and in the history of companies. So, but that's because we were very meticulous about finding the right market at the right time and the right use case for this type of product.
What was the first home improvement company you deployed with?
StormGuard Roofing Company. StormGuard Roofing Company was the first home improvement company that we launched with. I did not know. I've been living in New York all my time in America, man. I did not know. I remember going to my first roofing conference and people were just like, shingles this, shingles that. And I'm like, what the hell are these people talking? I don't want your shingles, man. Is this like a medical conference? Are these people sick? What are they talking about? You know, it was like a shingle.
Right.
And I launched with, and we launched with them. That was the first time that we knew that there was market pull because I remember talking to Chad Arnold. He was a manager. He was a sales manager for the StormGuard Roofing in Appalachia. And I asked Chad, how did it go your first week of using Rilla? And I knew already that there was something because we reached out to them on a Monday. They got back to us on a Tuesday. They bought on a Wednesday. By the next Wednesday, we already had a case study with them. And we had never seen that with any other vertical. We had never seen that with any other vertical that we launched with. And when I talked to Chad this following Wednesday, I said, Chad, how did it go your first week of using Rilla? Chad said, last week's about, I've never, in my 10 years of being in sales management, I've never seen a tool that saved me so much time. I said, why? And he goes, last week I went out on one ride along with one guy. Today I was able to coach all my 6 guys. And I said, okay, that's a 6 times improvement. And he goes, no. Last week it took me 6 hours to go on one ride on 2 appointments with this one guy. Today with Rilla, I was able to watch everybody's 2 appointments, so like 20, it's 12 appointments total. I was able to see all their analytics. I was able to do this in less than 50 minutes. So we went from 6 hours to less than 50 minutes, from 1 person to 6. We're talking about a 30 to 40 times improvement in the productivity of a sales manager.
Yeah.
Even when we were starting our product, that's when I realized we had something big. And then we started growing in roofing. And then we came into home services. Our first home service company was Dave Geiger with Preferred Home Services.
Okay.
Dave is the founder of Horizon Services. He was the one who brought us into home services at the end of 2022. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think certainly we serve a lot of home service companies at UpSmith. And one of the learnings I've had from that is around, there's a real big challenge on motivation that is tied to like what kind of recognition you're offered. And are you given feedback at all?
Yes.
And these companies are like highly chaotic sometimes.
Yes.
Because there's so many things happening at
Yes.
the management team. And so I'm curious, when you've seen places where the adoption was really great, like what were the things that were true about the way that it rolls out?
Yeah, great question. So Rilla is a naturally contentious product. Not even product. It's a naturally contentious concept. And you're literally recording people, right? So people don't like that. Like naturally, they don't like that. And by people, I mean technicians. Customers, consumers, they don't care. Consumers are totally fine with it. In fact, we were surprised by this. Most consumer interactions between homeowners and home service companies is usually a female homeowner interacting with a male technician, right? That's most interactions in home services. Female homeowners actually, because we have customers who literally tell their homeowners, hey, we're recording this meeting for quality and training purposes. Like literally they say it like that.
Yep.
And you kind of hear the interaction. It's like, and it's almost like a relief for the female homeowner. It's like, oh my God.
I'm glad that it's
so yeah, because I'm not just alone with this man in my house. You know what I mean? Like this is a company that's doing their service. You know what I mean? Like I feel comfortable. So the consumers actually, either they don't care or they actually appreciate it. Like 99% of the time, of course, it's kind of like the call center. People already kind of assume it. Technicians don't like this product at first. They do not like this at first. And so Rilla is a very naturally contentious product. So the biggest problems in implementation come from like, how can you get your team on board this idea that we're going to be recording every single interaction? It's kind of similar to when you do the Samsara cameras where you put them on the trucks and people don't like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's always friction. This one's more friction because you're recording the interaction in the home and you're saying things. It's not just you're driving. So it's like very contentious at the beginning. And so what we've seen from the people who implemented the best before they implement Rilla, They just have great cultures. They have great team cultures where they're super transparent. The technicians trust their managers. The technicians trust their managers. So when they say,
Really important.
this is a tool that we want, this really is. I mean, I see Rilla as like a very difficult pill to swallow that's going to make you so much better at the beginning, right? Because after 5 recordings, people lose the fear completely, and then they start loving it. We literally have testimonials of technicians. What happens is technicians get on it. They absolutely hate. Here's what happened. I'm just going to give you the debrief. Top performers absolutely hate Rilla at the beginning. They don't like performers. Top performers do not like Rilla. Because Rilla is by design, it's literally designed to figure out what the top performers are doing and share with everybody else. That's how Rilla coaches people. It literally says top performers are doing this and that. You do the same. So you can be like, top performers do not like that. So they hate it. People in the middle, they're slightly concerned. And then people at the bottom and people who are new, they embrace it faster than anybody. Because if you're new, you have no expectations. So it's like, oh, this is what we do. And if you're at the bottom, you are going to take any help that you can get, right? Because you don't want to get fired and you want to really improve because you want
to be successful.
Yep. And so the people at the bottom, people who are new, they get on it. 5 recordings, they lose the fear completely because it's called the Hawthorne effect. When you know you're being recorded or reviewed or studied or you're speaking in public and people are watching, fight or flight. Number 1 fear of people is being public speaking, right? And so fight or flight kicks in. But after you get exposed enough, your brain cannot stay in fight or flight for that long. So it burns out. And the Hawthorne effect goes away after a few hours.
Interesting.
Same thing with the recording. You record 5 times. This is a magic. It was like record 5 times, fear goes away. You forget that it's even there. Became second nature. And then what happens then is the bottom performers and the new performers, they start improving and they start coming up in the leaderboard in the first month, always 30%, 50%, 100% improvements. And when that happens, because they have a supercomputer in their pocket that's telling them exactly what to do and what not to do, and they have a coach that's coaching them every single day. When that happens, the top performers, the one thing they fear more than not being than the recording is not being the top performers anymore. And then they get on board. And then after a quarter of being on Rilla, the top performers actually become the most power users because they're naturally the people who want to, they're naturally the people that are going to go in and listen to all their recordings and they're going to look at all the data and they're going to try to improve every single day because they're top performers. And so what we've seen, this period of friction, which is in the first month, in the first 2 months, the companies, and we usually get over it. I mean, our retention is like insanely high. Over 95% logo retention after a year, over 150% net revenue retention. So it's like our retention is really good, but it's just a matter of like how much friction is there in the beginning month, and 2 months is usually what the difference between the best companies and the ones that are not, that don't implement it as well. The difference within the companies that have the least friction and the ones that have the most is the internal culture of the team before launching Rilla. If there's an insane degree of trust with the sales managers and with the service managers that we're like, hey, when they tell me that they want to give me this tool so that I can improve, and I believe them. Do it. If you believe them, then it's like there's everything I just said. There's usually no hate. There's usually no fear. There's usually no hate. It's just like oh, okay. Yep. You know, I trust Mike. Mike is not gonna do wrong by me. He's my manager.
Mike's my guy.
You know, so I'm gonna get on this, and it is true. You do get better, and so that's what it's internal team culture. I would say is the biggest difference.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think finding ways to help people be successful whenever they're trying something new is such an important insight.
Yeah,
and for a lot of people that are new to home services or skilled trades, generally, the thing that separates the winners and those that are struggle is often interpersonal.
Yes.
And so having the chance to get coached on how to be better interpersonally.
Oh my God. Like there's so many, because of this nature of the product that is a contentious product where only where the bottom performers and the new performers get on it first. Like the amount of stories that I've heard from technicians who were literally thinking about quitting the whole profession and quitting the career. Cause you know, it's usually younger, like the people that get into the trades, like who are new, they're usually very young.
That's right.
You know, they're getting out of college, they're going into trade school, they get the whole thing, which is true, right? Like, hey, you could literally pursue the American dream. You could get your license. You can make really good money, more money than all of your friends who are going to college with worthless degrees. Like that, all of that is true. Only if you make it past this like critical stage.
180 days.
Yes.
Those 6 months.
How can you make it past? How can you make it past? And the amount of people who would be amazing. I mean, even some of the top performers, you talk to them, they all have stories of somebody, somewhere along the line in their story kind of gave them that push that they needed, or gave them the feedback, or gave them the time, believed them enough that they could do it. And they kind of went through and they got through that, through that little hump. And so Rilla's just this is not doing anything different. It's just making it more likely that that happens.
Yeah.
Because you're getting more interactions with your coach, you're getting more time, you're just getting more coaching, right? And so the amount of stories that we've heard from people saying like, I was about to quit, I was closing 10% of the time, I was not making money, I was like, I didn't know what I was going to do. I got on this, and our customers share these stories with us. It's like almost that's why we exist as a company, for that. Because they share these stories of people who bought their first house because they now got to a point where they're actually doing what they're supposed to be doing. They got really close to the top performers. They bought their first car. They paid off their loans. Like, it's like, that's, you talk about the ride along of solving that particular problem, but the ripple effects of that, man, that's
real impact. Real impact. I'm grateful to have you aboard. I could talk to you all day long, right?
Yeah.
We have a shared mission about impacting people with the work we're doing with technology. Couple quick lightning round questions to wrap it up. You shared a number of book recommendations of people through history who've done important things. What's a book that you've read that changed your behavior?
That changed my behavior. Almost every book. Flow, the Psychology of Optimal Experience. I say that one because I just read it, but there's a bunch of others. In Business, Crossing the Chasm. Walt Disney changed my behavior. The biography, The Triumph of the American Imagination. But the most recent one I read was Flow, the Psychology of Optimal Experience.
Okay, excellent. We'll put that in the show notes for people to check out.
It made me much more. The main thing that I learned from the book and how it changed my behavior is that you can actually measure the span of a human lifetime in terms of like bits of information processed. And the span of a human lifetime, it's you can process in maybe 80 years of life, 185 billion bits of information. And when you're in the flow, it's because you're using your entire brain capacity at that particular time. And most people, they're not in the flow most of the time. So they're not using the most amount of the processing power that their brain has. So the 185 billion bits of information, they are only processing 20 billion bits of information.
Yeah.
So that's why you'll meet people that are 25 years old who it feels like they've lived 3 lifetimes already with all the experiences. And it's so if you look at it, bits of information, and you realize how much time you waste watching TV, which is not using most of your brain power, it's actually or scrolling through social media. You actually see holy crap, I'm actually wasting my life doing these things that are not in the flow. So reading that book made me believe that the one of the main purposes of human life is to try to be in the flow as much as possible so that you can actually maximize your time in this world. And so I started doing things much differently since I read that book. So,
important insight.
Yeah.
If you could go back in time and give advice to your younger self, what would you tell them?
I would say, two things. Start doing stand-up comedy earlier, even in the DR. And then the second thing I would say, the most important thing when you're starting a business is the people that you do it with. And so my first company, I made mistakes with the people that I worked with before. And so, I would tell them when people ask me what are my top 3 screw-ups, I say I worked with the wrong people.
Fix that problem. And my last question for you, what are ways that our listeners could be helpful to you right now? What would be a thing that would be?
So if you are a home service contractor and you're looking to level up your coaching and your training for your techs and your comfort advisors, go to Rilla.com, RILLA.com, and check us out. We also have a podcast. It's called the Rilla Labs. It's kind of like Huberman Labs, but we try to unpack the science of selling. We have a YouTube channel at Rilla Media. You can find us there. And if not, on Spotify, the Rilla Labs. And we're also, if you're an engineer or if you're in tech, we are hiring a bunch of people. We're based in New York. So if you want to work with one of the fastest growing companies in the world right now, and you're down to move to New York City, we'll help you with relocation and everything. And so, come give us a shout. It's Rilla.com/careers. So,
Awesome. Sebastian, thank you for coming aboard.
Thank you, man.
Spend time with you.
This was fun.
Wow. Let's get you next time on Untapped with UpSmith.
Bye.